6 to time, it's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. We'll get back to the whole discussion on, we had a lot of topics going in just a few minutes, but we're going to talk about schools for just a few minutes with our school superintendent for the state of Wyoming, Jillian Balow, who's on, who I had to inform her that I am unsupervised today. But so far, so good, right? We're okay? Well, hang on. No, we're not. Hi, Jillian. Now we're okay.
Okay.
What happens when they leave me alone by myself with all of these buttons over here. Okay, so good to have you on again this morning because I know schools, when does it start again? I still feel guilty when a school bus goes by and I'm not on it.
You didn't even know it, but that was a great question because some schools in the state have already begun and some are getting ready to gear up.
Okay.
In Laramie County, I believe it's August 31st.
Okay. All right. So it's not the uniform same across the whole state. Do you still get that feeling, though, like I do when a school bus goes by, like you're playing hooky?
Well, mine is not so much from a student, but from a teacher perspective.
Okay.
I get really anxious and excited this time of year about my classroom.
Because I'm 55 years old now, and I'm still feeling like I'm playing hooky and I'm supposed to be somewhere. But okay.
Yeah.
But now we have to talk, since schools are starting to get going again. We had the whole coronavirus conversation, but now I worry more and more, Jillian, about the school budget because there's not a whole lot of money coming in right now. So even what was budgeted is in question. So what's the game plan here?
It is. So in Wyoming, we continue to feel a structural deficit in education, which very simply means that we spend more on public education than we have. And, we've been able to backfill that with a number of different resources at the state level, but those now are also dwindling. So this is something that's been looming for a number of years that the legislature who's constitutionally charged to grapple with this has been debating. We've made cuts. We've found efficiencies. We've identified resources within the state budget, but the bottom line is that it's not sustainable. So those conversations are already continuing both in K-12 education as well as post-secondary. This year is every 4 years, Wyoming goes through what's called a recalibration process, where the legislature hires consultants to examine what an equitable and adequate education is for Wyoming students. That's happening right now. We're in the research phase or the information gathering phase, and some preliminary information will be presented to the legislature next month. And then the legislature will continue to debate it. As always, I'm a partner in those conversations, but at the end of the day, I don't have a vote in the legislature. So my role is that as a school state superintendent and executive branch leader.
Okay, so let's see what this looks like as the governor has talked about, and he is talking about with the legislators right now, but what has to be cut. And so there's a lot of people working for the state of Wyoming, some there in Cheyenne, but also across the state, who will either be furloughed or they're just going to lose their jobs altogether as the state makes major cutbacks. So how does that look in education in your department? And I'm not just thinking about the office that you're in, but I mean across the state there's offices as well. What does that look like?
Yeah, so this is a really tough time for our office, and I want to make sure that we kind of bifurcate or separate what the operations for the Wyoming Department of Education look like and the operations for school districts, because they're completely different. The Department of Education is an executive branch state agency, and so we've taken extreme cuts over the last month. Since I've been in office, which has been a little over 5 years, we're looking at almost a 47% budget cut since I've come in. That has affected programs as well as people. We have much fewer people and more work now. So that aside, we do our level best to continue to support school districts across the state and carry out the duties and responsibilities that we're charged with as an agency. Now, school districts are much different. So while the state agency has including my state agency that I oversee, the Department of Education. We have furloughs and budget cuts. But any of those decisions in school districts are made at the local level. And as of now, I haven't heard of any furloughs or salary cuts to school and staff at the local level. But again, it's really important to recognize sort of this decentralized governance structure for school districts, that locally elected school boards make the budget decisions at the local level with the state foundation money. That is not the case with the state agency.
Okay. It's going to be really interesting to see, because it'll be different from one district to the next based on needs and other considerations as well, who gets cut, which, of course, it has to happen. And I suppose it would be in some places, sports and music, but also in the, let's just call it the bureaucracy, if you will, in the administrative end. Those districts will have to figure out what to cut there. I think everybody's going to do it a bit different, don't you?
Well, let's be really clear. Right now, there are not cuts for K-12 education that are out there like there are for the executive branch. So any cuts that are made to education are done so through the legislative process, and so they would go through a committee and go through legislative votes, etc. So school districts are not having to make some of those same cuts that we are at the state level.
Okay.
And I want to be really clear about that. The school districts get their block grant from what's called the school foundation account, and then all of the fiscal decisions that are made at the local decision or at the local level. So if there are cuts being made, those are being made by school boards and not the same sort of series of cuts that we're feeling at the state level.
Okay. Now, since you mentioned the election cycle, we just went through the primaries. Have any changes been made in the people surrounding you?
Yeah, well, Tuesday was not a boring night for those of us who are who like to nerd out on election night like I do. But, big changes in education in terms of legislative members. Hank Coe, Senator, has been the Senate chair for the Joint Education Committee for years. He retired, so there's a race for that seat, and we'll have a new chair on the Senate side. On the House side as well, we will have a new chair, Chairman Northrup ran for Senate and was unsuccessful in the primary, and so we lose both chairs of the Joint Education Committee.
Okay. Any idea, I guess you wouldn't at this point, who's going to step in?
Well, I've been working with the Education Committee for years, and there are a lot of really great legislators on there, some right here from Laramie County, and so we'll see if that changes. But of course, that's way out of my scope of authority and purview. So we'll see what happens.
Since you're there, surrounded by all of this, do you have any idea when's this next special session going to take place and what that's going to look like for you? Any idea yet?
Yeah, the Joint Appropriations Committee met yesterday online. I wasn't able to tune into the whole meeting, but part of it, and it sounds like it could go either way. There may be a special session, but then in the next breath, there won't be a special session. So we'll wait and see. The legislature would not call a special session unless they needed to make decisions prior to the regular session. Right. And so we'll wait and see.
Okay. Jillian Balow, tough times, but we're making it through. So thanks for coming on the program. And I still, as we get through this school year, I'd like to continue to have you on because, a lot's going to change. You're dealing with a lot of unknowns, uncharted territory, so we'll need to have you back. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Glenn, so much. I really appreciate it. And you did okay unsupervised.
Oh, wow, yeah. But now they'll let me buy the coffee pot by myself, because that's a hot burning item. Thank you, Jillian. 8:16 is the time. Glenn. Wake up, Wyoming.